So there is no particular standard in order to communicate the oral report. But coming to the written report, there are certain standards which is set that how the written report has to be presented. So these are the main types of research report. The whole research report has been divided into two types, that is oral report as well as written report. At the same time, charts and graphs in order to explain the concept more precisely. So these tools are being used. Hello everyone, I am Harshita, lecturer, Department of Commerce, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, Mysuru. My dear students, today we are in the second session of Unit 6 of the subject Business Research Method, and the Unit 6 is about Research Report. So already we have discussed few of the concepts. Let us quickly recall what we have discussed in a previous session. So in a previous session, I had covered this topic, that is, we had a brief introduction about research report. Next, we have learnt about a role of research report or importance of research report. So what are the various benefits or what are the importance of research report to the business organization? So these are the two topics what I have discussed in a previous session. So today we are going to discuss a new topic, that is type of research report. Let us see what are the various types of research report here. So before that, what is this research report? The report which is prepared, that is end of the research activity, that is business research activity, and it has to be presented to the users in the form of a document. So that document is called as what? Research report. So there are mainly two types of research report. One is oral report, other one is written report. So under written reports, we have few more types like technical reports, popular reports, interim reports and other reports. So let us see what are the other types of other reports later. Mainly the whole research report has been divided into two types, that is oral report as well as written reports. Now we shall see one by one what is this oral report, what are the activities or what are the advantages of oral report. Next we shall go to written report. So in written report there are various types. We shall discuss those types in detail. Now coming to oral report, as the word itself tells that oral, in the sense it will not be in a written format where the report of the research activity will be presented orally. That is known as oral report. Presentation of research work of an individual or the researcher in a seminar or conference or in the workshop or in symposia, etc. is called as oral report. So here, as I have clearly told you, as the word itself suggests that oral report is a report where it is being presented orally. So where we are going to present orally, it may be in seminars or in the conference or in the workshops or in symposia. So any of these area where the result of the research activity is been presented orally, not in the written form. So they need not prepare a report where it has to be in the written form. It will be presented orally. So oral research report is submitted in front of the section of audience face to face. So how they are going to present this oral report? In the front of an audience. Orally they are going to present in the front of an audience. So audience may be in workshop, audience may be in seminars or in symposia or any other area where they are going to orally present the report. Many times there may not be any pictorial representation. So through oral report we cannot show any of the pictures, correct? So in a written report we can show the charts, we can show the diagrams, we can show the tables, but this cannot be possible in case of oral report because it is just presented orally. The presentation of research results is made by the researcher in front of a group of individuals who is called as an audience in seminars, workshops, etc. So this is about the oral report. So what you have to remember, as the name itself suggests that here the report of the research activity is not presented in the written form, it is orally presented. Orally presented in seminars, workshops or any other activities where there will be number of audience for whom face-to-face reporting will be done. That is oral report. Now coming to the merits of oral report. So where we go for this oral report. So what are the importance? What are the benefits of this oral report? So oral reports have some merits. They are saves time and energy. Of course, it saves lot of time as well as energy. So here they need not prepare any pictures. They need not prepare any table. It will not be in the written format. So just they are going to present orally in the front of number of audience. So it saves time, at the same time it saves energy also. Next one is face-to-face exchange of opinions, ideas between the researcher and the audience. So this also will happen. So in a workshop or in a seminar, so suppose the researcher is going to present his research report orally, then the audience who are listening that, they will have a discussion between the researcher as well as audience. That is face-to-face discussion. So if the audience has any doubt about his research work, openly they can ask their questions. Next one is facilitate clarification of doubt expressed by the audience. So here the audience will also get the clarifications for their doubts immediately in front of the researcher itself, because it has been presented orally. Next, researcher can encourage the audience to submit their suggestions and opinion for the further improvement in the work. Suppose if the audience has certain knowledge, so they are creative in their knowledge and they want to give some suggestions to the researcher about his research work. So here they can directly give the suggestions so that the researcher can make some improvement in his research work, or the audience can give further suggestions for further research work. So here these are all happens in case of oral report, because it is a face-to-face communication what is going on. So the audience can listen to the report of the researcher. At the same time, they are free to ask any questions and give any suggestions to the researcher. Next is it facilitates good feedback instantaneously. So instantly or at all of a sudden, the researcher will get a feedback. So if the research work is good, they'll give the feedback. That is the audience who listens to the research report will give the feedback immediately, or if any improvement has to be made, so that can also be done. So here the audience are free to ask any questions, clarifications, doubts and giving suggestions, opinions, feedbacks. So all these happens in oral report. Next, let us see what are the precautions that has to be taken while presenting the oral report. So the precautions to be taken while presenting the oral report. So the first one, the researcher should take into consideration the listener's education level, knowledge level and their requirements. Suppose if it is a wrong audience, then the researcher, if he present his research report orally, then it is a mere waste. So before selecting or before executing the oral report or before orally reporting to the audience, he has to know what is the knowledge level, what is the education level of the audience. So he has to select a right audience who is having some interest about the research subject or about the topic what the researcher have done. So right audience, always there should be a good listeners. Correct? Then only they can give the opinions, then only they can give the guidelines. So, orally when the researcher wants to present his report, he has to make sure that he is presenting them for the right audience. Next one is the researcher should have a clear idea about the objectives of the report. He should recommend his thought crystal clear to see that they have reached the target audience. Now, whenever he is going to present orally to the audience, he has to make sure that he is going to stress the objective of his research work carefully so that the audience have understood it properly. So, before explaining or without explaining the objective of the research work, then if he goes on reporting or if he goes on reporting orally to the audience, it is a mere waste. So, the audience also has to know what is the objective, what the work that the researcher have done. Everything has to be explained properly to the audience. Next, while delivering the contents of the oral report, he should observe that the research topic is being delivered constructively, logically as well as in an orderly manner. Now, whenever a research is going to do the oral report, so what he has to make sure that, so instead of directly going to the conclusion of the research activity, so he has to go through a step-by-step procedure. Systematically, he has to present his research report. So he has to go through what are the objectives of the research report, what are the problems he has faced, so what are the activities he has conducted, what are the findings he has got, what are the suggestions that has to be given for the further researcher, everything that has to be gone through a step-by-step process. Instead of having an introduction about the topic, if we directly go to the conclusion, it is a mere waste. So orally also there is a certain format where the researcher has to present the report orally to the audience. Next, the researcher has good communication skill. He should encourage the participation as well as the opinions of the audience to make the report submission more meaningful. It's not just that one-way communication what the researcher is going to do. So, he has to make sure that he is going to communicate the research work properly to the audience. At the same time, he has to make sure that he has to ask the opinions, he has to ask the suggestions from the audience, so that there should be a proper discussion between the audience as well as the researcher, so that there should be a clarity for his research work. Then only he will get a clarity for his research work when there is a proper communication between the audience as well as the researcher. So, if possible and if he deem fit, he can make use of modern presentation also. So, he can use some modern tools or the techniques where in order to make his oral presentation more effective, so that can be directly reached to the audience, so he can use those tools also. So, therefore, this paragraph tells that the research report should be in such a way that it should be interesting. Interesting from the point of view of researcher, one who is going to exhibit, one who is going to explain his research report. At the same time, on the other hand, the interest in terms of audience also. So, they has to give the opinions, they have to give the suggestions, and they are free to ask any doubt, clarifications, everything. Then only a true meaning for the oral report will happen. Next, the researcher should not leave any important research outcome. So, the main intention of the research activity is to give the outcome of the research. So, he should not forget any of the research outcome. That means he should note down all the material facts included in the last summary is clearly discussed with the audience. So, at the end of the oral report, he has to make sure that he has explained or he has delivered all the important points pertaining to his oral report. That is, all the important activity what he has found out in his research report has to be explained properly. That is, the whole summary has to be summarized properly to the audience. So, these are the few precautions what the researcher has to be taken while delivering the oral report. Now, coming to the second type, that is written report. So, as the word itself suggests that, so it will be in the form of writing, where in the oral report, it will be orally delivered to the audience, face-to-face delivery of report to the audience. But in written report, it will be in the form of writings. So, research report in the form of writing are called as written reports. So, the report which is in the form of writings, the end result of the research activity which is in the form of writing is called as written report. In other words, presentation of the research studies according to a standard format to show the results through pictures, diagrams, notes, etc. along with findings, interpretations, recommendations, suggestions is called as written report. So, here written report will be in the form of writing, and there is a systematic format where it starts from introduction and thereby it includes pictures, diagrams, charts, findings, suggestions, recommendations, conclusions, everything that will be in a particular format, and it is in a written form. That is known as what? Written report. Now, let us see what are the types of written report here. The written report can be of various forms. This classification is made on the basis of specific purpose satisfaction. So, based on specific purpose satisfaction, so the written reports has been classified into several types. So types of such report are as under. So the first one is technical report. Now let us see what is this technical written report. So technical reports are special reports. So these are the special reports which contains technical words which is included in the written report. So they are termed as what? Technical reports. So technical reports are special reports. They are prepared by the skilled persons such as technically trained and persons with good knowledge. So here it contains technical words which is being prepared by technically trained researcher and he has certain knowledge about the subject. So here well qualified person only can prepare this technical written reports. Normal person with some knowledge cannot prepare this technical report. The report is prepared logically by incorporating good number of appropriate statistics and using appendix whenever necessary. Here the statistical tools while presenting the research report. So here the researcher, that is technical researcher, he will use the technical tools at the same time appendix wherever necessary. So that also will be included here. Problems are appropriately studied and hypothesis is properly proved and the results are presented by incorporating appropriate technical terms. Here our problems will be identified properly and it will be solved properly, that is by using the statistical tools. It will be presented to the users and incorporating appropriate technical terms. So it should contain technical terms also. The research is carried on according to the standard determined for the purpose. So it will be in a standard format. So as a word itself tells that technical report. So it is done by a technical researcher who is having a sufficient knowledge about the topic. He only can do this technical report and there should be a proper format. That is standard format will be maintained. And as it is told that it is also called as special report. So at the end, appendix and charts are also given to encourage further studies also. Now what do you mean by appendix? In the sense, what are the tools which is being used in order to collect the data? It may be questionnaires. So questionnaire has to be fixed in the research report. At the same time, charts and graphs in order to explain the concept more precisely. So these tools are being used. So this is about technical reports. Now coming to the next type, that is popular reports. So as a name suggests, so it is more popular as well as it is very simple. Okay. So this is a very simple report. So as a name suggests, popular reports are prepared by considering the level of comprehension of a common people. So these are the simple report where even a common people can understand properly. But technical report cannot be done by a common people. So there should be a technical researcher. Only he can do that because he will have a sufficient knowledge about the topic. But this cannot be done by technical, or here this popular report is done by a common people. So it is done by a common researcher where it can be understood by a common people only. So there are no technical representations. No technical representations will be there and any common man can easily understand the research results. Even a simple person or a common person can understand the results of the research report because the terms used and the words they are going to use, it will be as simple as possible so that it can be communicated to the users very easily. These reports are simple in their nature but represented effectively to maintain some specific standard. So the activity, so here the presentation is very simple or the writings will be in a simple format, but the presentation has to be done very effectively in order to maintain the standard of report. These reports incorporate the objectives, methodology, data collection method, conclusions, suggestions, recommendations, etc. in a logical manner. Here also it includes introduction, what are the methods which is being used, and data collection, from where the data has been collected. Then conclusions, it contains conclusions, it contains suggestions, and it contains recommendations also. So this is about a popular report. So what you have to remember here, popular report is a simple report which is done as simple as possible and can be understood by a common people. Next one is interim reports. So, sponsors or the stakeholders may lose their interest in research studies if the process of research is too longer. So, if the research activity is too longer, then the stakeholders or the real owners of the business may lose their interest. So, if the research activity is more than 5 years or 6 years, then the stakeholders cannot wait for so many long years, then they lose their interest. So, for them, this interim report is very useful. So, therefore, before the submission of the final report, an intermediate report is prepared by the incorporating the details of progress mode. So, here what they are going to do? So, all the findings of the work will be made as simple as possible. That is, before presenting the research report, a summary of the report will be prepared in too short way and it will be communicated to the stakeholders. So, that is known as what? Interim report. So, this kind of research report is called as interim report. So, what you have to remember, since the stakeholders or the owners of the business cannot wait for a longer period of time in order to get the research report, in that situations, what the researcher will do, before presenting the research report, he will make a summary of his research report in a shorter way and that will be communicated to the stakeholders. So, that is known as what? Interim report. That is, whole summary of the research report will be discussed in a shorter way. Next, other reports. So, under other reports, we have few more types here. So, other types of research reports are given below. So, the first one is time-based report. So, based on the time which is taken in presentation of report, so that is known as time-based report. So, some research reports are prepared and submitted daily, weekly, fortnightly, monthly, half yearly, etc. to study some topic in order to take some decisions which can help the business. So, here based on the time the report has been presented, so that is known as time-based report. So, here the research report can be submitted every week, every month, every quarterly or every half yearly or yearly also they can submit. So, based on the time duration, based on the need of the business organization, the research report will be submitted. So, that is known as time-based report. Next one is functional report. So, research report prepared on some functional areas of the business is to understand the effect in its business activity. So, on particular functional area, the report has been presented. That is known as what? Functional report. So, thus reports prepared by the Human Resource Department on labor turnover. Now, this is a particular topic on which, or this is a particular function on which the report has been prepared and it has been submitted. So, that is known as what? Functional report. Based on certain functional area, what the research is done and what the research report is going to be submitted, that is known as functional report. So, it may be on labor turnover where the Human Resource Department is going to present a report on labor turnover and personal training needs. That is, what are the training needs which is given to the employees, compensation policies, and by marketing department to understand the consumer behavior about a new product. So, that is also based on certain functions or based on certain situations what the report has been prepared, that is known as functional report. And the next one is administrative report. In order to take a proper administrative decisions, what the report has been presented, that is known as administrative report. So, report typically prepared inside the organization to further improve the administrative machinery is called as administrative report. So, in order to take or in order to undertake the administrative activities properly, so whatever the research activity is been conducted and the report on that research activity will be presented for the further development of the organization. That is further administrative improvement in the organization. So, those reports are called as administrative report. Sometimes an organization may request the outside research agency to conduct this activity. Suppose they are not possible to do this administrative report, then they can go for outsourcing where they call the other agencies to conduct the research activity and submit the administrative report for the further development of the organization itself. So this is all relating to the internal research activity, where in order to improve the business organization, what are the studies which are going on internally, that is known as administrative report. Next one is private report. So a report prepared by the organizations for effective utilization of resources and to improve the profit potential are generally belong to this type. So here maximum output with minimum resources. They want to earn more profit by applying the term of minimum resources. So they want to use minimum resources and maximize their profit. So this comes under private report. Where they want to personally improve their profit in the organization, where they want to increase the profit of the organization by minimizing the resources. So that comes under private report. So these are all types of research report, where there are mainly two types. One is oral report, other one is written report. Under written report we have learned several types. Okay, so this is about types of research report. Now we shall see what are the difference between oral report as well as written report. So here, coming to the oral report here, first point, the results of the report is not presented by diagrams, tables, schedules, etc. So here the results will not be presented in terms of diagrams, schedules or charts, anything like that. So that is under oral report. Coming to the written report, research results are represented by diagrams, tables, schedules to make the report more interesting. So that is known as what? Written report. So here there will be no diagrams, there will be no charts, there will be no tables. Whereas in written reports, everything will be there in order to make the research report more meaningful as well as interesting. And the second difference is that the usefulness of the report depends upon the person who narrate the contents of the report. Of course, here under oral report, the researcher has to be a good communicator. So he wants to explain each and every activities in detail. Then only the effectiveness of oral report will happen. Whereas coming to the written report, the beneficiary may review the report result by obtaining the copy of research report. So here the report will be presented in the form of writing, where the presentation of the copy is very important, whereas here the presentation of communication is very important. Next, third difference is that the report is not scrutinized by the top level reviewers. So what they are going to do under oral report, they are just going to report in a seminars, workshop or in any symposia. But what happens? It will not be scrutinized by any other top level managers or top level authorities. But written report, the report is verified by the researcher and by the beneficiaries thoroughly before it is been presented. So before presentation, the written report has to be checked properly, because a proper written report has to be communicated to the users, so it will be verified properly. And the next difference is that standard set for research report submission is not found. So there is no particular standard in order to communicate the oral report. But coming to the written report, there are certain standards which is set, that how the written report has to be presented. In the same way, as per the standard set, he has to present the research report. He cannot present randomly. As per the standard set by the organization, it has to be communicated. Next, this kind of report, that is oral report, can be submitted within a reasonable amount of time. So normally, when we go for oral report, when we have less time, then we go for oral report, and it requires very less time. But when compared to written report, this type of written submission requires own time for preparation as well as submission. Here, written report has to be prepared, it has to be arranged properly, because it has to be arranged according to the standard format, then it has to be communicated to the users. So time consuming is less under oral report and time consuming is more under written report. So these are the main difference between oral report as well as written report. So in my next session, I am going to discuss about the next topic, that is components of research report. Let us see what are the various components which are involved in the research report. So in my today's session, we have discussed about types of research report and the difference between oral report as well as written report. So my dear students, hope you have understood today's session. See you all in my next session with a new topic. Till then, take care. Thank you.